Under the night sky, a young boy named Shiki watches a shooting star alongside two machines, his grandfather, the Demon King, and his friend Michael. The Demon King tells Shiki the star's a dragon, while Michael says it's a comet, much to the Demon King's amusement. He then tells Shiki that one day he should leave their home and see new lands and make all sorts of friends, calling them the most important thing in the world. Shiki thinks he's talking about Michael, who says machines can't cry because they don't have hearts, to which the Demon King says, everyone has a heart, no matter who they are. Shiki asks what's in space, which the Demon King lists many things, including bugs, much to the boy's terror. And that somewhere out there is Mother, a being who can grant wishes. Michael asks the boy what his wish is, to which Shiki answers that it's to make lots of friends. Years later, a girl named Rebecca and her cat, Happy, arrive at the Grand Bell Kingdom to make videos for their Aonako channel. When the Nightbot tells them that they're the first customers in 100 years, the other machines open up everything in the kingdom and throw an elaborate opening, though Rebecca forgets to record it. The Beekeepers ask for an event to film, to which the Butler Bot suggests that they go on a quest. Later, they face a giant robot cat as part of the quest when it suddenly collapses, Bashiki on top of it. Rebecca freaks out and punches the boy when he starts poking her body. After freaking out over a bug, he marvels at Happy and asks if he can eat him, which Happy hastily declines. After pondering for a bit, Shiki then asks Rebecca and Happy to be friends, as he's never met another human before, which causes the two to panic and run back to the park, only to find that he followed them. Shiki introduces them to all the machines and proclaims that they are all good friends. Rebecca and Happy introduce themselves to Shiki before the machines start celebrating their first customer with a party. Unknown to them, a hunter bot watches them before heading to Gromball Castle to inform the Castellan about their guests, saying, "The time has come." At the end, Shiki explains to Rebecca that he was repairing the catbot because they've been acting up, and after finding out where they came from, he tells her that he wants to leave and see the world. Once Shiki falls asleep and breaks the table, startling the Beekeepers, Rebecca asks if she can give Shiki a haircut. Michael tells her that the Demon King brought him to this special park 10 years ago as his grandson, and they've taken care of him since he broke down. The robots offer the tour room for the night but ominously stare at their room. The next morning, Shiki awakens to find his hair cut short and runs off to find Michael, only to hear Rebecca scream. He finds Rebecca and Happy tied to stakes. The former asks Shiki to untie them, but the Castellan orders him not to. Shiki defends them, saying they're his friends and are not bad people, but the Castellan says that they've been waiting for this moment for someone with a ship for a century. He refuses Shiki's request and states that he's going to kill her. They intend to kill the two and use their ship to escape. After being infected with the virus, the robots gained the ability to think for themselves, which made them despise humans. The Castellan explains to Shiki that they have been abandoned for a century by humans, thus they intend on gaining the ship and leaving Grand Bell, adding that they only let Shiki live because of the Demon King, to his disbelief. As the machines beat the shocked Shiki into the ground, Rebecca tearfully asks them how they could do such things after Shiki called them his friends. Shiki gains the will to fight and sends the machines flying before facing the king and remembers what his grandpa said, if he finds friends who will cry for him and treasure them forever. Happy frees Rebecca, who explains that Shiki possesses ether gear, an old power that can use his body's other flow to reconfigure it as power. Shiki defeats the castle with a single punch that causes the ground to collapse before rescuing Rebecca and Happy. After flying them to their ship, the Aqua Wang, Shiki says he intends to stay behind, but Rebecca drags him aboard. After they clear Grand Bell, Rebecca reveals that they are in space. What appears to be a comet passes the ship, with Rebecca revealing it to actually be a dragon. In the Grand Bell Kingdom, the Castellan and machines reveal that their actions were a ploy. Years ago, they knew their batteries would soon die, so the Demon King begged them to send Shiki off, saying he will change the universe. As the robots begin to deactivate, Michael notes that if he knew how lonely he would feel, he would not wish for a heart. As they leave the planet Grand Bell, Shiki tearfully says that the robots of Grand Bell were still his friends, thanking them and vowing never to forget any of them. As the trio begins their journey, Shiki decides that he's going to make 100 friends in the universe. As a dragon continues to fly through space, it returns to a giant woman. The woman then wonders whether Shiki will become a legendary hero or a demon king that will bring destruction. On the Aqua Wing, Rebecca introduces Shiki to B-Cube, a video sharing website where people use little cubes to post videos. As B-Cubers, the people who get a lot of views earn money off of them, which Rebecca and Happy plan to do with their Aonako channel. Rebecca then tells them they are headed to Blue Garden. There, she plans to register Shiki as an adventurer so he can go to many different stars. As Shiki gets pumped with excitement, Rebecca asks him to be her and Happy's bodyguard for a while, which he accepts. As they arrive, the trio enters the Adventurers Guild, Shooting Starlight, with Rebecca saying their adventure is about to begin. As Shiki gets excited, Shiki, Rebecca, and Happy head inside the building for Shooting Starlight. Shiki wants to touch all the people there but is held back by Rebecca. Rebecca explains to Shiki that Shooting Starlight is more of a place for people to get work. At that moment, Shiki's online registration finishes, and Rebecca hands him his new adventure license. Because he doesn't know his last name, Rebecca had registered him as Shiki Grand Bell. Once he notices the Class E rank on his card, Rebecca and Happy tell him that it's the lowest adventurer rank, which they are also a part of. They overhear people watching Libelia's newest video, causing Rebecca to begrudgingly admit that her videos are good. Shiki then says he knows how they will make Rebecca's videos better than Libelia's. He declares that they'll go and meet Mother, being the first ones to do so, while figuring out why she seems familiar to him. However, since Mother lives outside of the Sakura cosmos, they'll need a better ship and more party members to help them. Rebecca decides that they should ask Professor Wise, the man who fixed Happy, for his help. Back at the guild, Elsie Crimson and her crew arrive, looking for Shiki. With one crew member reminding her, Elsie shows that she already knows that the planet Norma is already dead. Meanwhile, on the Aqua Wing, Rebecca tells Shiki that he can stay in the guest room as she refuses to share her room with him. Happy tells Shiki that the ship is flying itself because it's on autopilot. Intrigued, Shiki asks if he can pilot a ship. Rebecca and Happy agree, thinking that they could get a lot of views from him flying for the first time. They record Shiki piloting the ship, and when they were close to Norma, Shiki says that he wants to land the ship. The two decide to let him and instruct him on how to land, but he presses the switches all at once. They rapidly enter the atmosphere and dodge the pillars falling from the sky until they crash into one of the pillars and fall down. Rebecca is furious yet happy that she got footage of it, while Happy wonders about what to do with the ship. Shiki lifts it by using his ether gear to make it lighter and sets it back down. At that moment, an alarm goes off, warning the three that it's about to rain Earth ether crystals, much to Shiki's shock. Happy explains that ether is the source of all power present in everything in the universe, where, in unscientific terms, it can be called magic. In Shiki's case, his ether gear can rearrange the flow of ether in his body, like how a machine would. Shiki proceeds to ask how people live on a planet like this, to which Rebecca answers that they built underground cities to live. Shiki is amazed at all the people and animals present and asks if there are no bugs. As they arrive at Professor Wise's house, Rebecca and Happy call out to him while Shiki picks up a set of goggles and discovers that they give him X-ray vision. Rebecca tells him to stop messing with the professor's stuff, but just as she tries to take the goggles off, a man with a gun appears, telling them not to move. The man asks them why they are in someone else's house, and Rebecca and Happy nervously explain that they are looking for Professor Weissteiner, the man who fixed up Happy. The man says that he is Weissteiner before asking them who they are, much to everyone's shock. 20,000 years into the future, a pair of explorers find a man and a woman. They then pick a B-cube necklace and find the words Eden Zero written on the back. A mysterious girl introduces herself as Xiaoming and calls herself the narrator of the story. She then tells the audience not to think too much about the time jump at the end of the last chapter because in this story time doesn't matter much. Back in the garage, Rebecca informs the young man calling himself Wise that they came looking for Professor Wise. Though the man accuses them of working for someone called Sieber, suddenly Shiki points out that there is someone on the floor above them. Where moments after, shots start firing on them. Shiki leaps up to the ceiling and uses the gobbles to locate the attacker, finishing him off and sending him falling below. While everyone's distracted, Wise gets onto a motorcycle and flees, believing that they are Wise's friends. The attacker tells them a message for the traitor, that those who betray them will die by Sieber the Mighty's hands, much to Shiki's amusement. At a riverside restaurant, Rebecca tries to make sense of what happened and why the young man has the same name as Professor Wise, while Happy and Cheeky speculate that he created an age reversal drug that wiped his memories. Rebecca realizes that she can't connect to the net. Just then, a news report comes on about the birth of Blue Garden's new adventurers guild, Shooting Starlight. However, the guild was founded 50 years ago. Rebecca remembers one time she and Happy visited Wise and asked to live with him, only to be turned down because the planet was dying. Rebecca takes the three outside the restaurant and realizes how old all the technology is. Shocked, she realizes that they somehow traveled back to Norma 50 years in the past, the year 10-442. Meaning that the man they met was Professor Wise 50 years ago. While the three try to put together what has happened, a giant robot suddenly appears piloted by Sieber. Assuming the three are with Wise, Sieber is determined to make them pay for Wise stealing from him. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Wise holds onto a briefcase that he says is his and will never let Sieber get his hands on. Having found the group in the middle of the city, Sieber demands that the three tell him where Wise is, saying that he stole money from him. Rebecca nervously says they don't know where he is, and while Sieber argues with his men to attack them, Rebecca suggests they run for it so they avoid changing the past. One of Sieber's men takes notice, causing them to chase after them. Shiki uses his Satan gravity to have him fly down the street as Sieber and his men look on in shock before starting to shoot at them with missiles. Just as Sieber is about to catch up to them, Shiki counters with his gravity fist technique, crashing Sieber's mecha. The three take the opportunity to escape while Sieber furiously says that they will definitely come back. Hiding out in a local bar, Shiki is amazed to see all the aliens there. Rebecca explains that the aliens living among humans have a language and culture similar to that of humans. Rebecca explains she knows about the bar because the professor told her it was a hideout for him. Coincidentally, the young Wise himself appears, much to everyone's shock. In a fit of panic, Rebecca quickly begins explaining everything to Wise, describing the group's current circumstances, something which Wise doesn't want to believe but at the very least acknowledges the fact that Rebecca and her friends aren't part of Sieber's gang. The group's attention switches to the item that Wise has supposedly stolen, which Shiki eventually takes from Wise. However, his gravity powers suddenly blink out and he drops the case, much to Wise's horror. It then opens, and a little android pops out, noting how it's not being handled with care. The group is stunned at seeing the small robot named Pino and asks to be called Pino for short. Pino explains that she is an anti-machine android, but at that moment, the power suddenly goes out along with Happy. Rebecca explains that EMP stands for electromagnetic pulse, which can shut down electronics, which is why Happy shut down and why Shiki couldn't use his ether gear earlier. Fortunately, the power comes back on after a few seconds, and Happy comes to with no idea what happened. Shiki is impressed by Pino's power and immediately asks to be her friend. And while the situation is strange to Earth, Pino agrees, much to Rebecca's surprise. Wise is still upset that there was no money in the case, though, and wonders if Pino can be sold for any money. Pino says that she belongs to her creator, thus has no market price. She also explains that she woke up because she thought she heard her master's voice. However, when Wise asks if Sieber is her master, Pino begins to panic in fear and runs off. Wise wonders if Sieber plans to use Pino to steal money and decides to run after the little android. Rebecca remembers how the older Wise had told her to never steal, leaving her disappointed in the past Wise. Bernadette talks about the gang of Sieber, telling them that Wise and Sieber had been comrades but seemed to have recently fallen out. Outside, Rebecca decides that they should check if their ship is all right and then try to return to Blue Garden, as it's best not to mess with the past. Shiki then shows Rebecca a BQ that he had found in Pino's case, and while Rebecca gets mad at him for taking it, the device suddenly activates. The BQ then reveals footage of Sieber ordering Pino to dance for him, even though she can't. Sieber then cruelly removes her left leg, leaving Pino in tears, and then orders her to erase all memories of her previous master. As the three continue watching the video in horror, Sieber orders one of his men to forcibly erase Pino's memories and to replace her leg with a nail. Visibly enraged, Shiki vows to return Pino home to her master, saying that no one makes his friends cry. With Rebecca refusing to forgive the man either, Happy looks on Pino's case and learns that her latest maintenance date was X492, the year they came from. Meaning that Sieber has already messed with the past. The three vow to stop Sieber and to save Pino no matter what. At the hideout, Pino only greets her master Sieber, who announces that they are taking the whole town for themselves. Watching from the shadows, Wise wonders what his former friend is plotting and is stunned to see he has the Foot brothers working under him. After getting the hideout's location from Bernadette, Rebecca, Happy, and Shiki head there by motorcycle. Sieber plans on punishing Pino for running away, but the little bot tries to explain that she was stolen. But he angrily threatens to tear off her other leg. Just as the bald man is about to, Wise throws a rock at Sieber, causing him to drop Pino. Wise hands the blonde claims he stole the bot and now has ownership, saying that she would be wasted under Sieber. Suddenly, Rebecca, Happy, and Shiki crash through the wall on their motorcycle. Shiki angrily demands they give Pino back and launches a gravity wave, causing all the gang members to be sucked towards himself, followed by a gravity fist frenzy. Just as Rebecca congratulates Shiki, Wise takes her motorcycle with Happy still on board and takes off with Pino, while Shiki and Rebecca are distracted. Sieber drops a metal crate on Shiki and goes after Wise. Before he goes, he orders the Foot brothers to capture Rebecca, who has fallen through the floor into a room filled with junk. Terrified from seeing a fly, he moves back until he sees the deactivated and broken body of what he thinks is Michael from 50 years in the past, causing tears to roll down his eyes. However, the bot activates and informs him that his name is Johnny and states that he is a mass-produced model as he shuts down. Meanwhile, Sieber shoots a missile, forcing them out of the motorcycle. In the hideout, Rebecca dodges the brothers' attacks and finds an ether blaster. Just then, Shiki leaps up from the floor below and finishes off the Foot brothers. After Rebecca tells him where Wise and Pino have gone off to, Shiki runs off to face Sieber. Meanwhile, Sieber manages to corner Wise's groove with his mecha gear. Just as Sieber is about to fire a missile, calling Wise a dead man, he is torn out from his mech suit by Shiki. Sieber then proceeds to fly up to meet Shiki, using the reinforced arm Wise made for him, saying he'll show him what happens to those who defy him in this town. Shiki retorts by telling him that he should take care of machines as they are alive as well, finishing the criminal off with a magic attack, Gravity Cannon. Rebecca arrives and hugs Happy after he reactivates, as Shiki asks Pino if she's okay. The little bot asks why he's worried about a machine when he's injured himself. He says that it's because they're friends, which Pino tearfully agrees. Out in space, a crew member announces to their leader that the Skull Ferry will arrive by planet Norma soon. As Elsie looks at a photo of Shiki in an alleyway, Rebecca explains that Sieber had been stealing the town's military robots using Pino's ability. But they've been turned over to the police. They think that if they return to the future, then Pino's memories will return. Just then, the police arrive, and while Rebecca is initially not worried, Pino points out that they will be in trouble since they don't have any ID, causing them to run away. Wise appears to run as well when the police recognize him from Sieber's gang. Back at the Aqua Wing, Shiki, Happy, Rebecca, and Pino prepare to head to Blue Garden in order to find a way back to their time. As soon as they lift off, though, The police catch up to them and begin shooting at them. While the Aqua Wing can easily outrun them, it is suddenly prevented from leaving the planet by an unknown energy field. Wise tells the group to give him control of the Aqua Wing, saying he can help them get into space. Shiki tells Wise that he can have the ship, much to Rebecca's anger. Shiki says they'll find a better ship if they want to visit Mother. To Wise's intrigue, Wise then declares himself a ship's captain as he reveals his ether gear, Machina Maker. He uses his gear to completely remodel the Aqua Wing from the inside out, letting them leave the police behind. He even uses it to give Pino back her leg. After the ship manages to clear the energy field and reach space, Rebecca's phone rings, revealing the caller to be Professor Wise, to everyone's shock. The professor then reveals that Norma had been put on the do not travel list, and that as long as they remain on Norma, they would remain in the past. The professor then reveals that a monster called the chronophage had eaten 50 years worth of time, further explaining that eating a planet's time causes the planet to be permanently stuck in the past. Professor Wise and most of the other residents from Norma had gotten off the planet beforehand. He also reveals that he only repaired Pino and that her master was the Demon King. Much to Shiki's shock, the professor then turns his attention to the younger Wise. Because of the chronophage's actions, an alternate younger version of Wise, whose time was eaten by the monster, was created, hence the possibility of a time paradox is eliminated. And as he continues what he is saying, the signal is cut off. The Aqua Wing is soon intercepted by the ship of Elsie Crimson, who proceeds to pull their ship in with a tractor beam, saying that she has finally found Shiki. As the Skull Fairy's tractor beam pulls in their ship, Happy and Wise begin to panic, while Rebecca notices the ship's flag and identifies it as the symbol of Elsie Crimson, a dread pirate who conquered the 7 cosmic seas. Despite Wise's efforts, the Aqua Wing is pulled fully on board, and a holographic image displays Elsie, who introduces herself and her ship. She praises their ability to escape the time-consumed planet Norma while insulting them for being captured by her tractor beam. Shiki demands to know her intentions, to which Elsie answers that she wants nothing more than to plunder. She declares that they will be taken to the planet Gils to be sold as slaves. Wise attempts to bargain his way to freedom by pledging to be their mechanic, which annoys Shiki. The young man declares that he will instead plunder the Skull Fairy from Elsie, which shocks his comrades. Elsie gives him directions on where he can find her and closes off the communications between them. Shiki runs off, but Rebecca expresses doubts that he could beat someone as infamous as Elsie Crimson. Shiki discovers that the ship is infested with disgusting alien growths and finds a crowd of space pirates shuffling towards him, prepared to fight. Shiki is shocked when the arms of the pirates all transform into tentacles and begin to attack him. Quickly recovering, Shiki defeats several of them with ease as he proclaims space is awesome. Shiki discovers Elsie's room and barges inside, but is surprised when Elsie turns around and reveals that she has a demonic skull face. Shiki faces off against Elsie and remarks that her skull face means that she is inhuman. Elsie demands to see the power that he inherited from the late Demon King, and she immediately launches an attack and strikes him with a tentacle. Shiki redirects his gravity to move to the ceiling, but Elsie slams him back down to the ground. In a flashback, a younger Shiki spars with his grandfather but is unable to beat him. As he uses his ether gear to suspend Shiki in the air and stop him from fighting, when Shiki complains about this, the Demon King offers him the chance to learn how to control gravity. In the present, Shiki punches back Elsie and demands to know what she is. She simply repeats her introduction back to him and asks who he is, which Shiki declares himself as an adventurer who plans to go find Mother outside of this Sakura cosmos. When Elsie counters this as being a vain goal, Shiki resumes the fight. Suddenly, a fleet of warships from the Interstellar Union Army of the Cosmic Government appears, led by Justice and accompanied by Victory and Creed, an abnormal other reaction award. The Skull Fairy gets their attention, and Justice recognizes that it is not Elsie's. Shiki continues to fight Elsie while she explains that even Demon King Ziggy himself could not find Mother, which surprises the young man. The levels of Shiki's ether reading approach 100,000 as he activates his gravity ether gear through his entire body, launching himself at Elsie, taking her down with gravity. The Skull Fairy's self-repair system fixes the damage done by Shiki to the hull of the ship as he stands over the unconscious body of the defeated Elsie Crimson. Rebecca, Wise, Pino, and Happy find Shiki and question if the person he defeated is really Elsie. The laughter of the real Elsie fills the room, and she appears once more on a holographic screen, giving the group a quick backstory on the parasitic life forms, and how they infested the Skull Fairy. Elsie admits that she has been on another ship the whole time and announces that she is giving the ship to Shiki and his friends. She goes on to explain that the ship used to belong to the Demon King in the past before it fell into her hands, and that she always intended to hand the ship over to Shiki. Elsie explains that the Demon King took the ship on a journey outside of the Sakura cosmos in search of Mother but was unsuccessful. Instead, he returned with Shiki, whom he took to Granbell to raise as he knew he was dying. Despite hearing the full story, Shiki is reluctant to just accept the ship from her, but Elsie reassures him that one ship is nothing compared to her entire fleet, which stuns the group. Jessie reveals that the Interstellar Union Army has them surrounded. They are beginning to fire warning shots at Elsie's fleet. Elsie offers to fight off the Interstellar Union Army in order to buy time for Shiki and the others to escape. Shiki thanks her for the help and for the ship, and remarks that since she was a friend of his grandfather, then that makes her his friend too. Elsie smiles at that and reveals one final fact: the Demon King told her that anyone who reaches Mother will be born again. Her final words confuse the group, but Wise acts quickly to move the ship to a safe location by pulling a lever. Rebecca discovers that they've emerged close to Blue Garden and that they should head back there. Deep within the Skull Fairy, a mysterious woman emerges from a pod marked as E4. Meanwhile, Rebecca and Happy relax by taking a dip and discover that the bath is suitable for both humans and machines. As they bathe, they notice that Rebecca's body is beginning to glow with symbols resembling ether gear, which Happy guesses is due to the bathwater stimulating the ether in Rebecca's body. Overjoyed at the possibility that she may be able to use a power like Shiki, Rebecca pumps her fist into the air and accidentally fires a destructive beam of energy that pierces the ceiling and breaches the hull of the ship. The atmosphere rushes out of the hole, driving Rebecca and Happy upwards, but the breach seals itself quickly thanks to the ship's self-repair feature. Later, Shiki, Happy, and Rebecca show off their new outfits, which they had found on the ship, to Wise, who reveals he found some new clothes too. Shiki sits down on the Demon King's throne while proclaiming confidently that he will take the ship to see Mother. As he sits down, though, he unknowingly activates Protocol 7, which transfers ownership of the ship officially to him, as the ship welcomes him and acknowledges him as the Demon King. The female android calling herself Witch appears before them and states that she is in charge of maintaining the ship. She also proclaims that she will obey any command Shiki gives her, which he quickly tests by having her bark like a dog. Wise points out the state of the infestation aboard the ship, which attributes to her functions being suspended for a long time. She claps her hands together, which removes the infestation from the ship and rebuilds the exterior appearance of the ship back to its original form. As the ship finishes transforming, which proclaims that the ship was originally known as the interstellar warship Eden 0. And this was the end of the first part. Be sure to check our other videos.